Hi guys, my name's Cyngen, I'm alcoholic.
Cyngen.
It's a lot more difficult than the first time. Don't know why. I was standing outside now and I was thinking to myself, if I disappear, I wonder if anyone would notice. But I wasn't going to get away that easy. I just want to I sit here with a lot of gratitude, and why I say that is because I shouldn't be sitting here today due to the relapse I had after my previous 1 year, I don't think I truly understood what they meant when I was in treatment, that they said this disease is progressive, and they were right. And I had to learn that the hard way. And I'll get into that at a later stage of my share, but like how it was for me as a kid, as I grew up as a kid, I had a mother and father like most people. They were really, I had a loving family. My mom and dad got divorced I was at quite a young age when they got divorced. My behavior from then on outwards, I think truly shown that this is really this disease has got nothing to do with the substance that we use. It's definitely got to do with our behavior, because the way I behaved as a kid wasn't normal. Wasn't like any other kids at school and stuff like that. I was dishonest, I manipulated, and those sort of things. When I started seeing those things, when I did those things, I got my way, I carried on doing it, One thing I do remember as a kid, I was thinking about it on the way here, I remember being on, I had a lot of friends and stuff like that, but I remember being on the sports grounds at school, and I'd often leave my group of friends, and I'd go and sit and stand at my fence of my school, and I'd just stand there and I'd just feel absolutely alone. And that's how I felt most of my time. And as time progressed, like I said, that behavior just stuck with me, because I got my way with my defects. I managed to get what I wanted, and if you got in my way, then I'd disown you, sort of thing. That's how I was. I was also very selfish. And as time progressed, I slowly found substance. My first attempt to substance wasn't alcohol. It was I won't mention the name, but it's something to smoke. And I remember when I had taken it, that sense of fear that I always had, and the sense of insecurities and stuff like that, all those things that crippled me, they went away. They speak about the promises, all those promises came true when I was on substance, because that's how it felt. And as time slowly progressed, then I had drunk alcohol for the first time, and I remember I didn't drink like a normal person. I drank to blackout, because that's just the way I was. I didn't like feeling. And as as I got a bit older, things got a bit worse, because the consequences still slowly started to come for me. I left school at a very young age because I didn't like I didn't like authority, if you can put it that way. So I was basically given an alternative, either to leave school or repeat a grade, and I told them I'd rather just leave, and I left school. I went to college, and I really did a year of college, and I really wasn't in college, if you could say that, because most of the time you could leave and come as you please, and most of the time I messed around. I was out using, I was out drinking, never really concentrated on. I didn't think, education was important. To this day, I'm still facing those consequences because of it, like I said, as time slowly progressed, so did my consequences, and so did my using and my drinking. Everything got larger and bigger. It got to a point where if the AA police are here, I might get into a bit of trouble, so I apologize in advance. But anyways, I did use drugs and alcohol for a while, and that stopped working. It did stop working, and then I turned to self-mutilation. I was a cutter, and that also relieved that sense of pain that I guess I had, and I did that for a while until my mom picked up on that I was doing it, sorry, to go back a bit, sorry, I'm going to be all over the place here. To go back a bit, when this all started happening, you know, I'd been using and drinking during the time. My behavior was not okay. But during all of this, we had, my mom, my brother and I had been attacked in our home at gunpoint. We were tied up and stuff like that, and my mom was almost raped that night. And yeah, I think that experience, for me personally, I think it just amplified my disease. It gave me a reason to act like a complete muppet, you know, and I did. Sorry. And, you know, as I carried on, I blamed everyone for what had happened. I blamed society. I blamed, you know, I just never took responsibility for the way I behaved. Yeah, so, like I said, you know, the self-mutilation came into play at this point in my life, and my mom caught on, and she didn't know what to do with me. She eventually, she didn't know what to do with me, so the best thing, what good parents do, you know, is they take us to doctors. And my mom took me to a psychiatrist, and as psychiatrists do, they don't know what to do with us, so what they do with us is to cure our whatever, they give us more substance. And I like that. I'm not going to lie. I like getting given something that's going to stop me from feeling, so I wasn't going to say no to that. And, you know, as things progressed, I was diagnosed bipolar schizophrenia, which apparently is impossible to have both, but I had both. And, you know, I was on a substantial amount of meds, and I was on them for like 4.5 years. And, you know, the meds also stopped working, and I started self-medicating. I started self-mutilating again. I'd stopped, but then I had done it again. And, you know, I'd gone back to another psychiatrist, and he had said to me, you know, I don't think he's bipolar, but I do think he's schizophrenic. That's what normally happens. You do hear and see stuff when you're on substantial amounts of drugs. So, just putting it out there. And yeah, like I used that a lot, you know, and I'm laughing because it's mad. Because I use that a lot, because when I use that certain thing, this label I was given, you know, then I had a reason to act the way I was acting. And I thought I'd found, you know, why I was acting the way I was acting. Not realizing I was actually just a selfish arsehole. And, you know, as time progressed, the meds that were changed on numerous occasions, you know, like I said, you know, this wasn't working. And on top of the meds I was drinking, I was using street drugs and all of that. And yeah, it just got worse. It just got really bad at one stage. To a point where I was in a shitty part of Johannesburg for a while, because my mom wanted nothing to do with me, my dad wanted nothing to do with me, because I had jumped between the both of them and I had used them both, you know, to get what I wanted. And eventually they caught onto my bullshit, and they were like, no more. Now you're going to go out there and defend for yourself, because you're just taking the piss out of us, if anything. And I did, you know, and that's when I think, I would say I reached my first rock bottom, well, so I thought, because when I was in this part of Johannesburg, you know, I didn't have my mom on my case, I didn't have my dad on my case, and I was living with a friend and his grandfather, and we used and drank every day. I self-medicated. A month's plus medication that I was on was lasting me like 2 weeks. And it just got bad to a point where I'd phoned my mother, and I'd said to her, like, it's getting bad, and she said to me, well, I can't take you back, because, like, how do I know? You're just messing up, you know, if anything, you're ruining your life and you're ruining ours. So I'm not taking you back. And I pushed through for a bit, and I just carried on doing what I was doing, and to a point where, like, I remember one night I was lying in this, like, shitty house where we were only allowed to shower, like, once a week. My hygiene went out the window. It was a shitty part of my life, you know. And I remember phoning my mom again and saying to her, like, I don't think I'm going to make it, if I'm honest, you know. And she knew it. My mom was at the time supporting me, even though I wasn't with her. And she knew what I was using the money for. She just was so scared that I was going to do something stupid. And anyways, she eventually went back up to, my mom eventually took me back, and I was on a bus back to Joburg. And I remember getting there and my mom seeing me, and she was shocked by the way I looked, you know. And I remember, like I mentioned this in my share the last time as well, is that I remember her, she had her last 100 rand on her and she bought me something to eat because I hadn't eaten in like 2 weeks. And I did, and she like didn't know what to do with me because my aunt didn't want me there at her house because my mom was living with my aunt at the time. And yeah, my mom had eventually made arrangements for me to go back into the psych ward because she didn't know what else to do with me. And I remember going back to the psych ward and the lockup unit, and I remember that I think I was there for a month. I only remember being there like 3 days. They had medicated me so badly. The past experiences, they didn't know I was using substance and stuff like that. I kept that to myself. But this time they had known I was an addict, you know, and I was abusing substance and stuff like that. And their way of dealing with me, as they deal with us, is just to completely shut us out. And that's what they did to me. Until a point where I was fetched, at the end of my time there, I was fetched by, I'll never forget, was Gareth and Brendan, people at the treatment centre I was at. They came and fetched me, you know, and I went up to treatment for the first time. And I'll never forget, I was driving through the Duty Road, as we do, and I was thinking to myself, where am I going? I was shitting myself, you know. I think they thought they were going to lock me in a shack and shackle me up and stuff like that. I was really shitting myself. But I remember getting to the gates of the treatment centre, and I don't know how to explain it, but that like sense of relief, I guess, had come past, because also not only is the treatment centre a beautiful place, you know, it's just when I got there, the presence of the treatment centre, it's just something I can't explain. And I got there, and one thing, I did 6.5 months in treatment, 6.5, close to 7 months in treatment that time. I did the halfway house. And it was quite a journey, you know, and I remember leaving the halfway house just before my 1 year, you know. I got given the go-ahead to go back home, and I went back home. I moved into my own flat. Things were okay, I guess. Were okay, but weren't okay. Because as, you know, I wasn't really around a strong fellowship. There was 2 meetings a week, but those two meetings that I had, I stopped going to, you know. I can justify the ways and whatever that I did to got me where I got, but in the end result was all me, because I'd stopped doing this, and this is what keeps me clean and sober, you know. I stopped going to meetings, I stopped speaking to my sponsor, I stopped doing step 11s, started being dishonest again, and this guilty conscience, this conscience that I have that we get from recovery, you know, that thing that bickers at you when you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, you know, that slowly started to go away, or I just started to ignore it. And one thing led to the next. When they say that we relapse on behavior way before we pick up, that's the truth, because my behavior was not okay. The things I was doing was not okay. It wasn't, if anything, I was clean and sober. I wasn't in recovery, you know. And one thing led to the next. It happened so fast. I remember being at work the one day, and I think I'd had enough, you know, because I'd stopped doing this, I stopped doing the program, and the program like gave me that relief, you know. And then when I stopped doing that, my next best thing, you know, was drugs and alcohol. And I picked up 14.5 months later, I'd relapsed. And I remember it got bad, you know. I don't like to, you know, and I think back to that stuff. I remember the look on my mom's face when I told her I'd relapsed. I've never seen my mom destroyed like that, you know. Like I said, I thought I'd reached my rock bottom that time in Joburg, but this time I think I completely destroyed myself, and I destroyed relationships around me. I was a selfish asshole, you know. I didn't care what damage I was causing my family. I didn't care about damage I caused my friends. I only thought about me and myself only, you know. I was just completely selfish. And yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail about what happened during my relapse, because but I relapsed, you know. And the last thing I remember before coming back into treatment, I wanted to use to die. You know, I didn't want to be alive anymore. And I remember using so much that I went into blackout. And I don't remember much of that day. It was the 6th of December 2018. I don't remember much of that day. And yeah, I just remember glimpses of what happened. You know, I remember being in the car with my mom and not knowing what's happening, and then going back into blackout. I remember being in the treatment center, talking to people, but don't remember fully what happened. But the next day I got told what had happened. You know, I remember waking up the next day and looking at the roof of the treatment center in the room I was in, and I was like, I can't believe I'm back here. And yeah, you know, I'm not going to say I gave the treatment a hard time when I was there, you know, because if anything, I didn't want to be alive, and I didn't want to live, and I was there because I was there, and I don't know why I was there, but I was there for a reason, and I'm still alive, and I'm still here today for a reason, you know, and I'm slowly starting to see that now. But you know, I gave the treatment center a hard time when I was there. I was put on certain consequences due to my entitlement and stuff like that, and yeah, they did it for a reason. You know, I was resentful to them for what they did, but they did it for a reason. You know, when they say there's a method behind the madness, they say that often in the welcome groups there up at the house. It's true, because they do what they do because they only got a certain amount of time, and they're trying to save our lives. But I didn't see it at the time. Anyway, so I did my 3 months in treatment. I'd been dishonest in treatment about stealing cigarettes and stuff like that. And I was put on consequences for that, and eventually I was told I was going to go to the halfway house, and then I didn't go to the halfway house, and I was put on to work with Rob. And you know, a lot of people said it was difficult working with Rob. I really enjoyed working with him. It was really cool working with Rob. Yeah, because we spoke about a lot of things, and yeah, he showed me a lot of things as well. He's also really an awesome guy in recovery. And yeah, I'd left treatment. I did whatever. I was working with Rob there. I'd left treatment. I'd gone into the halfway house, and yeah, things were okay for a while. I guess I was doing what I was told to do until I got into a dishonesty there in the halfway house, and I'd kept it to myself, you know. And yeah, when they say this, secrets keep you sick, and dishonesties you don't get better. It's the truth, because I was in a mess for such a long time, you know, and no one could really pinpoint why. I only knew why. And one thing led to the next. I left the halfway house. I was in such a complete mess. Through that dishonesty, it was selfish, because not only did people get hurt in it, I was in a mess, and I'm sitting here today because I guess I did what I was supposed to, you know. I eventually got with a new sponsor, Dom sitting next to me here, and I got honest with him, you know, and I told him everything I did, and he, you know, he helped me through a lot of the mess I was in, you know, but it still doesn't justify the dishonesty I kept, you know. I could have put a lot more effort into that dishonesty and owning that dishonesty, because, like I said, more than just me was hurt in that dishonesty, you know. And I still have guilt and shame around that today. I have consequences today because of it. And yeah, those consequences are set in places because we have consequences to our actions. It's just one of those things. But you know what? I do what I do. I'm doing everything in my power. I'm doing everything possible to change the way I behave, you know, because I'm not perfect. And I'm not saying that to justify me behaving like an arsehole. But I can tell you right now, I'm not perfect. I'm an alcoholic, but I do try every single day. I try my best to try and correct my wrongs that I've done. You know, I've started working. I work in a restaurant at the moment, and I work hard there. And my boss also, he's given me a lot of responsibility there now, because he can see that I'm trying, and he's giving me a lot of responsibility. I mean, he's given me his keys to his restaurant, and that's his bread and butter. I'm looking after his house when he goes away now, and these are the type of things I get when I start putting in action and start changing the way I behave. you know. And like I sit here with a lot of gratitude. Why? Because if I'm not doing this, I'm in a mess, and those stuff come back, and that's been my experience. And my experiences I mustn't sit with dishonesty. I must expose everything, you know, be as honest as possible, and just do the next right thing, you know. That's what it's taught me. It's do the next right thing, and just be. It's about carrying a message. You know, I was scared to sit here and try and carry a message today because of the dishonesty I've like that I kept and stuff like that, and a lot of people know about it. But you know, I sit here with the message because I'm clean and sober. It's because I've put in the action to try and change that, you know. But like I said, I sit here with tons of gratitude because of friends in the fellowship, because of the fellowship itself, you know. They've shown unconditional love when I couldn't love myself. I've got not only my sponsor, he's like a friend as well, and like he's been there for me, like during the hard times, and like I sit here today because of all those things. I sit here today because of the treatment center, you know, that they pushed me to where I am today as well. I've got friends, like I said. I've got a boss also that does a lot for me. And you know, as long as I keep doing this, and as long as I put in the effort and the action into changing the way my wrongs that I do, you know, I'll be okay, you know. And I always struggled with the higher power thing, but I do know that there is a higher power, because I wouldn't be sitting here today if there wasn't. There's something definitely a lot more powerful than I am. And you know, those things, I remember Don Tate often used to say to us in group, you know, a lot of us didn't get to experience him, a lot of us did. I remember him used to say to us, the experience that we get in our lives, you know, are the experiences we need to have. And I never fully understood that up until now, because the experiences that I've had today, I see things for what they are, you know, and I try my best to do what I can to be a better person. Like I was saying, I don't get it right all the time, and I'm not perfect. But yeah, I just wanna, if anything, I just wanna show a lot of gratitude to God and stuff like that. My high power and my sponsor and people in the fellowship. Sorry, I'm babbling on here. I think I'm going to end it there, but thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Cyngen.